So the time has finally come. We're about to be approaching into the forms of Bowser's Kingdom, by the one and only based off from the forms of China, the brave warrior who are about to be overcome. Hey, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Mario here once again, and I'm back for some more yet again for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Let's Play of Super Mario Odyssey for the Nintendo Switch. So, last time we actually did manage to explore for quite a bit in the Luncheon Kingdom, and able to actually explore through the Ruined Kingdom to able to deal out, with the forms of, the Mighty Dragon in the forms within the Ruined Kingdom. And, yeah, today for this episode is the fact that we're about to be exploring through the next kingdom in the forms within Super Mario Odyssey, and that will have to be by the forms of, well, Bowser's Kingdom. So even then though, that, as far as I'm aware with this particular kingdom, it's kind of like the exact same thing for how it does it in, you know, in any other Bowser-themed worlds, in the forms of the other Mario games, except it's all in China-based. Because of that, though, you can definitely see by the forms of these familiar, China environments-looking, locales or something like that, then, you know, you might actually come across into that a lot. So anyway, let's get started by the forms of the first Power Moon that we can able to nab, and that will have to be stacking up 10 Goombas while simply capturing them for those Goombas that are in mind, and that way you should able to get yourselves the first Power Moon stack up above the wall. And yes, if you couldn't tell by the forms of the actual color of the Power Moon for this kingdom this time around is the forms of red, because, you know, we haven't got a red Power Moon ever since during the likes of the, well, let's just say we haven't got a red, collectible, mandatory collectible item thingy by the forms of, ever since in Super Mario Galaxy, in the forms of the red Power Star back in the first game. So, but this time around though, that, we actually got plethora of the forms of those red Power Moons to be found. So, and the regional coins for this, kingdom is once again going to be up to 100, just like the ones in Luncheon Kingdom, New Donk City, and especially noticeable with, I would say by the forms of, the Seaside Kingdom as well, and, basically every single, like, in addition with the bigger kingdoms, as far as I'm aware, for the other kinds of stuff in mind. So, anyways though, so as you can see, we've actually got ourselves 2 Power Moons so far, which we've already got another one, actually, by the forms of behind a big wall. So yeah, it's been finally coming back into the forms of, or actually, what I meant to say is the fact that, it's been quite a few, days to able to actually come back to this game because of this, though. You know how the fact that, recently that me and Sonic has recently finished up with our redo Let's Play of, Mario Kart 7 recently for the 3DS. And, as a result, the quality itself is a little bit more better than the forms of the previous, version of that Let's Play, but unfortunately though, the views amount, when it comes to the actual views, unlike the ones in Mario Kart DS and Mario Kart Wii, they did that pretty well when it comes to views. However though, that cannot be applied for Mario Kart 7 for some reason, or perhaps it's mainly because of how the fact that they preferred capture card, you know, direct footage software as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, you get the idea with that solution here. So anyways though, in this mission right here, for the next Power Moon I should say, is that we need to once again gather those musical notes, and then as a result, if you do that, then obviously the Power Moon is for yours. So, let's see, taking notes between Spinies. Because, you know, get it because of the actual Spinies, as you can see from that specific section, but and also we actually introduced into ourselves these kind of like the equivalent to these Thwomps from the previous 3D Mario series of gaming, but except the fact that they can able to actually just walk this time around though, so that makes it a little bit more strange kind of thing about it. And then once you deal with that specific enemy alone, then obviously you get yourselves the next Power Moon, infiltrate Bowser's Castle, which appears to be the first mandatory mission for this particular kingdom. And after we deal well with all that, then we can move on to the next part. So even then, now let's see what this next mission is all about. Smart bombing. So this could be something related to the Bowser bombs, as far as I'm aware, that because they usually just roll down and what have you. And again, I do apologize by the forms of the lack of uploading schedules for this point, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm gonna have to be honest, guys, this is the reason why it took so long to able to actually get back into this particular stuff, because it took me a lot of out of it to able to record everything in this particular game, as far as the quality standpoints, and especially noticeable with, you know, the editing software is concerned. Well, there's no jump cuts around here, unlike the ones in the other Let's Plays in general, like specifically by the forms of other Let's Plays in general. But either way though, that's not much else to really think about for the time's sake. So, anyways though, so today was actually forms of the 21st of December in 2018. And I'm gonna tell you right about now for this point, folks, until we get to the forms of the next kingdom after this, we would definitely beat the main game before Christmas is coming up. So you can then know that, after all, we've only got about 4 more days to go until, Christmas Day. So expecting I probably won't tell you, I'm not gonna tell you guys what I'm gonna get in for this year's Christmas, because, I'm sure enough that White Teddy will be involved yet again, ever since about a year ago, because, well, as to be expected, much like in any other Christmas seasons, then it might actually always happen. So, anyways though, another thing I want to point out is the fact that, recently I've managed to able to complete my sales on my own time by the forms of, Banjo-Kazooie for the Xbox Live Arcade version on my own time, and, as far as I'm aware, I actually did a pretty good run when it comes to Click Clockwood, unlike the ones in the actual Let's Play of Banjo-Kazooie for our YouTube channel so far, and, because of that though, no many deaths and all that stuff. And while I did manage to die several times in the forms of that specific quiz game, because I seem to get a little bit more serious short-term memory loss when it comes to like Grandtoto's advice, especially noticeable because it's been about quite a few years since actually coming back into the forms of Banjo-Kazooie for the Xbox Live Arcade, even for the N64 version. So, naturally, I've managed to complete everything in Banjo-Kazooie right about now, including by the forms of stop and swap items for the Xbox Live Arcade version, most likely, for nuts and bolts. So, naturally, the next game I need to able to get into the Banjo-Kazooie series, and that will have to be Banjo-Tooie for the N64 and the Xbox Live Arcade version. So, but still that Sylvester and Applejack need to get back into the forms of Banjo-Tooie no matter what for the actual Let's Play of the game, because as far as I can usually just try to tell by that little factor about this is that you know how that game is going to be a lot more bigger than Banjo-Kazooie was, because, you know, it's a little bit more, you know, open-worlded and all that stuff, and much like in the forms of how it does in the original game from Banjo-Kazooie, I'm actually going to be completing the N64 version first, before I'm able to jump into the Xbox Live Arcade version, fundamentally. So, if that's the case, then I should probably able to do that. Of course, I need to look up on guides and anything like that, much like how it does in the first game, but I don't know, something about the forms of, you know, how the fact of the matter is though, although Banjo-Kazooie was, you know, already in 20 years old right now, ever since enjoying the likes of in July or June, and, I'm just really hoping that the next game in the series will make a comeback, but of course not. But either way though, I'm just a little bit more, not so much for nitpicking though right there, but just a little bit of a compliment for this point here, so. And yeah, I do apologize by the forms of how the fact that sometimes my microphone recording commentary wise has gone a little bit more messed up throughout, just because of how the fact that sometimes it just goes like incredibly quiet, whilst other times though that it just gets all glitched up suddenly, which either way, it did happen to us in the forms of our yesterday's video of not just by the forms of well, not so much by the forms of in Mario Kart 7 and the forms of the actual like extra video things and stuff like that, but it's more accurately though of the forms of Christmas 2012 unboxing special, by the forms of the redub version, that Pickler did manage to able to do a lot of hard work on that, and I have no idea why I just did that right there, because I just get a sense of feeling there might be some regional coins that needs to be found around here, so I probably should able to keep it in mind by the forms of the camera controls and stuff like that. So I'm quite surprised that we're almost nearly towards the end of the forms of the main game of Super Mario Odyssey, actually, because after all that, then we can able to actually do some post-game stuff, mainly by the forms of some bonus content here and there, especially noticeable with the forms of you know, some other things else for this elsewhere. But either way, though, aside from that, though, there's not much else I can really say about it. So, anyways, I believe, yeah, there's definitely some regional coins down there. So, let's grab those two from the other side. Of course, there's actually a new enemy that we can able to actually just capture with, and that's the forms of these little woodpecker-looking enemies. But I will admit, though, right away, is that I'm not exactly pure great when it comes to able to controlling the woodpecker enemies, just because, well, the thing is about this particular enemies, though, to able to capture with, though, is the fact that, well, let's talk about the actual movesets that the actual woodpecker-looking enemies are actually going to be performed. Well, as far as I'm aware, they can able to actually just poke out with their nose, and in order to actually just to stick from one wall to another, is that you have to able to actually stick their nose onto the forms of the actual wall, specifically on those white-looking walls, not the metal ones, because it will not work like that. So naturally, that you can able to actually just go ahead and do that. There are some power moons that does require those specific enemies to be captured with, because of, if you couldn't tell by the forms of the actual, like, 2 power moons, as far as I'm aware, that you can actually just able to actually grab, or in this case, just trying to poke the actual, let's just say the hexagon holes, and to be able to actually obtain a power moon from here. So, naturally, though, that makes a little bit of a difference. So there we go, that's it for Smart Bombing mission, and now we're moving on to the next mission. In this case, the next mandatory mission is the big brutal battle. So this means that how the fact that we can now able to deal with the last 2 remaining of the Brutals rematch. So because we've already done the 2 rematches before, the new forms within the Luncheon Kingdom and the Snow Kingdom, so could this be the possibilities of how the fact that we might actually come across into the forms of the final 2, you know, the Brutal Battles rematch? So that could be a little bit of more of an opportunities there. Before we do that, we need to hit into this little souvenir shop and able to get the actual power moon itself, obviously. And of course, I will be back with the forms of the actual coin spending, with the forms of the remaining costumes, because as far as I'm aware, I recently played this game on my own time on the handheld mode, and what I've noticed is that I have finally managed to able to almost completely done with everything when it comes to this particular game itself. The only thing I was missing on is the forms of that specific costume that it cost about 9,999 coins, which I don't have it right away, and that is the forms of the actual skeleton outfit, which fundamentally though, the skeleton costume is pretty much mandatory if you really want to go for 100% through everything, and as far as I'm aware, I was few coins left or above from it, and especially noticeable how the fact that recently, that in this game's case, that in the forms of the later days as far as updating stuff is concerned, you know how the fact that recently they've actually released the Christmas outfit, and especially noticeable with the Zombie Mario pack, and even especially noticeable with the Pixel 8-bit Mario, which I accidentally managed to brought that from the forms of the 9,999 coins total, and I just did not even notice that the Skeleton Mario is actually the requirements of the actual star icon, so that's definitely my fault right there, and I did not even noticing that, so anyway. So as you can see, I've managed to change my costume for a little bit into the forms of a samurai looking costume of Mario, and in order to actually get to this point over there, that you do need to wear that specific costume. Because of that though, it just makes it Chinese themed. Because of that though, in this section right there, we're gonna be spending most of our time in the 2D section right there, and what's cool about this is the fact that every time you actually get to this next section, like there are 4 sections in total with this particular scroll thing right there, and it just goes into a different level layout, so that's pretty cool at the same time, taking notes in a folding screen. Man, I really do like this kingdom, because it's especially noticeable how the fact that, well, generally speaking, we've already had ourselves the Chinese-themed level before in Super Mario 3D World, but that was only like twice throughout the whole entire game. But naturally though, that this place is going to be a little bit more bigger, even though it might be a little bit more spaced out when it comes to like these other platforms and some other sections and stuff like that. But apart from that though, that this place is gigantuan, which either way though, that could be some potentials. So anyways though, so for this next power moon that we can able to get, the one it was actually down there, and the other one which we do need to acquire this particular statue that we can able to capture with, and then we need to stand onto this particular section right there by the forms of that specific spot as was shown on that mark, and that way if you've done that by completely straight, then you would able to get that power moon. So Juzuru all in a row. So yeah, that's about it. And that doesn't end off here, because there's actually another Jozo statue over there that we can also possess with, and because of that, we can able to actually just break for that floor over there, and rather than just leaving onto the actual pipe you go, instead you have to do exactly the same stuff as how we did it from before. So let's place him here, and there you go. Underground drizzle. Or in this case, Diesel. Or I can't really pronounce these guys very well. I do apologize for that. But either way, though, that's as far as I can tell. So I'm pretty sure we're pretty much done with that section for now. So, anyways, though, let's go ahead and go all the way to this specific point here. And before we deal with the forms of those two battles right there, the picture frame is not being revealed yet. So I can't really stress for that right about now. So, but if, again, we'll, assuming if we don't collect every single power moons of the game yet, we would definitely come back into that shortly after that. So, especially by the forms of the actual, post-game, sequences, as far as I'm concerned with this. So, yeah, let's just go ahead and double check on these little shiny spots for the specific, if you manage to capture that specific statue for unknown reason. And I think that might actually work out or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. But anyways, let's go ahead and climb through here. And naturally speaking, that's oh yeah, there's a checkpoint right there. So main courtyard entrance. So you can do those battles if you want, but before I do that, I need to go ahead and grab these regional coins. So that will be 31 of it so far. Even though I've already spent most of it, but he forms of that specific requirement costume as far as you already saw. And yeah, that's everything's all natural, so anyway though. Again, not much else to really say, but he forms of the actual like what the okay, I did not meant to use the ground pound, but I know it's been a long time since I actually played this game for about 2 months ago after the forms of the actual moving day. So, I think that's totally my fault for that point right there. So, there we go. And, we need to get to this particular, zip line right over there. To able to go all the way. This is pretty long. To able to actually get all the way from here. I just realized that. So anyways though, in this part over there, I'm pretty sure we need to be able to deal with all 3 of these, the exact same enemies as we saw from before. That's kind of funny. Because of this though, if you actually ground pound on there on top of its head, it goes like a somewhat of a mini version of the forms of the exact same voice clip as Bowser's whenever he's like defeated or something like that. But either way though, even though these are not that much of a threat to me though, aside from that not getting crushed and all that certain stuff. So anyways though, consecutively, when it comes to able to do it with this particular Let's Play of Super Mario Odyssey, and especially noticeable with Kingdom Hearts Final Mix, that Sonic still needs to get back into that game. Consecutively, that we're probably not going to end off those 2 Let's Plays in Draining this year, definitely not, just because, well, we're almost nearly at the end of 2018, first of all, and second of all, because of the forms of too many redo Let's Plays that we did manage to done for the time, and I guess that's about it. And as far as I'm aware, those two games are pretty long when it comes to able to doing Let's Plays of, especially by the forms of whenever we do a redo Let's Plays of both Super Mario Galaxy 2 and especially noticeable with Super Mario Galaxy. And then I was assuming that we could potentially try to do with our redo Let's Play of Super Mario Sunshine as well, and possibilities of Super Mario 3D Land as well. But it all depends though, really, just because of how the fact that we've still got insane amount of views. Well, except for Super Mario Sunshine, just because, well, I feel like by the forms of the video quality is a little bit horrendous at times. Well, not perfect by any means. I mean, it's still pretty good in average, but it's just that the actual quality itself doesn't feel as matched up compared to the forms of any other videos these days. So anyways though, we gotta actually come across into one of those two poodles over there, so let's see how they're gonna be getting on there. The boss wasn't kidding when he said you're too patient, or you're too patient. But I owe it to the family, to all the poodles, to come at ya and with everything I've got. So let's have a rematch with you then, after, well, pretty much at the very beginning of the game, so, because you're the first one to able to deal with, so, yeah, the only major difference is this time around though, with this particular boss fight from the forms at the very beginning of the game, is that he's actually a lot more tougher this time around though, because he's actually a lot more, because I say he's actually a lot tougher than before, just because of how the fact that he's now sending out more hats, and especially noticeable that you have to like keep on knocking out every single hat by the forms of the actual stack that he's got. Well, you get to do that a lot in the actual battle, so, and what makes it a little bit more tougher than the forms of from before is that you can't really tell, specifically on this section in particular, you can't really exactly know where he was hiding from with all the whole bunch of hats in mind. So yeah, but if you manage to guess that one correctly, then you would potentially try and able to actually deal with him for the last few hits, especially with his hats needs to be get off. So, and then much like before, if you stomp on its head for 3 times, then obviously the battle's done. So yeah, it should be pretty easy, self-explanatory, and every time you actually take down one of those brutals over there, one of those Bowser statues, specifically the gold ones, is actually taken down, so that's one thing in common. So actually, we've actually got ourselves one last rematch here. Yep, the wedding's almost here. The boss is getting ready in a keep up ahead. But you two can't scream, cause you're definitely not invited. Excuse me, miss. I'm trying to be able to save my Princess Peach here. Oh well, no big deal. So anyways though, this battle is exactly like how he does it back in the Sand Kingdom, except what makes it a little bit more trickier this time around though, to me though, is the fact that the actual arena itself is a little bit more smaller compared to the forms of a much more bigger, expansive arena, and especially noticeable with the forms of the actual pattern where it comes to like tossing a bomb immediately, trying to able to actually deal the damage of that specific brutal right there. And again, I do apologize by the forms of the actual like their names as what they're known for. But I think it's most likely because of that. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I really do apologize by the forms of the lack of disappearance after the forms of a, you know, the moving day process. Because, well, eventually when it gets to 2019 and onwards, things can get a little bit more comfortable, don't get me wrong. But, it's just the fact of the matter is, though, is that the moving day can get pretty much a exhausting experience. But either way though, that's as far as I can usually say about that. And there goes my double amount of health, so that's not good. But that's okay though, because either way though, I still managed to survive from that specific last section for this entire battle. But either way though, still, that's my only major concern with that, so. Anyways though, so let's go ahead and just deal with, well, let's try to go ahead and just reflect the actual giant bombs, essentially, to able to deal the amount of damage on her, well, to get her hat off, and we are done with that specific mission. But again, you do need to be able to defeat those two brutal rabbits here, so just in case you could, potentially proceed to the next portion of Bowser's Castle. In addition with those kinds of stuff, then we got our next Power Moon. So there we go. And let's see, it looks like we're gonna have to actually access this bridge now. And sure enough, the door will automatically open to the final mandatory mission in the forms within Bowser's Kingdom. And that is Showdown at Bowser's Castle. So this means we have to make our way all the way up to the top of the actual tower. So could we possibly do that in this video? Well, probably not, just because of how the fact that, well, I don't know if we got some time left to do that. But either way though, let's just go ahead and just get this thing started, shall we? Man, I cannot believe that 2018 is almost going to be over by then. Even by the forms of, we've only got about 11 days to go until 2019 on this horizon. Oh yes, we got ourselves regional coins here. In fact, I believe we're almost at the halfway point of the forms of the regional coins to able to grab through. But again, it's not the most 100% guaranteed when it comes to like getting every single like regional coins at the moment, just because of how the fact that, well, again, I will come back for those and during the likes of the later time, but for now on though, mainly have to focusing on the main parts of the actual process at the moment when it comes to like the main game and stuff like that. And then once that's been done, then I could ensure to able to actually just go ahead and able to actually go back and just come go after the buddy forms of those specific bonusy items, mainly buddy forms of the bits of, no, not so much for that, the forms of the regional coins and stuff like that. So anyways, once we zip through here, there we get ourselves the next Power Moon, find behind the bars, or find behind bars, sorry. Excuse me, it's got something in my throat there. I think that's the only reason why I didn't talk as much compared to the forms of the previous videos ago, in the forms of this Let's Play in general. But because of this though, I'm pretty sure enough though, because back in during the likes of our Let's Play of Dragon's Lair 2 Time Warp, that you know how Sonic mentions everything when it comes to like the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Directs. It did happen about a month ago. Well, almost 2 months actually. So either way though, yeah. In fact, speaking of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, I'm actually decided to take a break from that game at the moment at least, just because, well, because of that though, I need to able to get this game finished and done with before, well, we're not going to do it definitely finishing up with this particular Let's Play in new forms of in the very end of 2018, but we definitely surely we can able to finish that Let's Play up until 2019 or 2020 or onwards, just because, well, this game is really huge and pretty big at the same time. And plus it all depends on new forms of the other schedules like, you know, redo Let's Plays, and especially noticeable with, you know, other projects and even every single part of it though. But either way though, that's just, that's what this channel is a little bit more different when it comes to like everything else for this residable though, really. So anyway, yeah, again, there's not much else to really talk for this point, folks, because aside from, new relatable stuff in around here, and, consecutively, yeah, I'm pretty good to go for this point, especially noticeable with, every single portion of it, so, but again, I do apologize by the forms of my lack of dialogue, and especially, oh, shoot! I know there might be something down there, though, but, oh, please don't tell me I have to restart there where the checkpoint is. Yep, I have to restart for that specific checkpoint here, so, whoops. Excuse me about that, sorry about that. And, yeah, because of that though, my throat is a little bit dried up, just like how it does in the previous days ago, but, and yeah, this is what makes it a little bit more trickier when it comes to this enemy capturing system, is the fact that, well, it's nothing my entirely fault or anything, it's just that every time whenever I was trying to able to go up with that specific, you know, the woodpecker looking enemy, and, as a result of that addition, that in order to actually go up, that you have to flick the actual control stick, and then if you do that, then you weren't able to proceed. And what makes it a little bit trickier to me, though, is the fact that you need to be exact right on with that flicking motion. And then if you do that a little bit more too late, or in this case a little bit more of a sense of confusion, as a result though, sometimes I might end up falling to a death or anything like that. So that's the only little bit more, that's the only tricky part with this enemy to capture with, but I'm sure enough it still really works though, don't get me wrong, but it's just always having a little bit more of a difficult time to able to actually just able to, you know, poke the wall one form or another, but that's just how it is for me. Alright, so here we go on another checkpoint right there, but he forms the outer wall, so let's go ahead and, yeah, you see what I mean? You see what I mean? That's why I always have a difficult time to able to actually just, you know, flick into the forms of the other wall to another. I need to get a lot of practice with this though, because of, I think I haven't got to that point for a certain amount of time, so I think that's the only solution I can think of, so... Oh well, no big deal, but at least we managed to respawn onto that checkpoint right there, so... Okay, so we do need this guy to able to crush that cube over there, and if done so, then you get another power moon, so... And I almost fell into death for a moment ago for the actual poison swamp, so... But, again, if you actually touched by the forms of it, or even if you get touched by the forms of the poison swamp, just like the ones of how it does it in, the Warriors Kingdom in some sections, well, turns out you automatically died. Oh, hey, Captain Toad. I was walking along these rooftops so far long, and I just got lost. But I found this power moon, so it's not all bad. Thank you, Captain Toad. I really always appreciate it. So, good to see you, Captain Toad. In fact, every time you see that Captain Toad is doing a little bit of a victory animation, that is exactly like the ones in the forms of the actual Captain Toad Treasure Tracker game. So, for the Wii U, the 3DS, and Nintendo Switch. So, yeah, that's pretty cool stuff. Alright, before we continue, I need to grab those regional coins from there, so... Okay, that's fine, because the checkpoint is right where near to me where I was, so... It doesn't matter to me too much, though. Well, aside from able to keep on dying a lot of times, in the forms of in Bowser's Kingdom itself, so... I'm probably not gonna do that all over again, because it gets pretty ridiculous, though. So anyways, though, let's go ahead and kill this little... Oh, it's too late. Come on. Okay, there we go. There we go. That's more like it. And because that we need to do that, because of how the fact that we need to able to use that specific enemy over there to get all the way up to the top of the actual tower. So, we're probably not gonna do that all the time though. Well, usually, I don't know, what do I think about it. Sorry for the lack of dialogue for this point, just because, well, the thing is about commentary for this point, folks. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty much low on news updates and everything, just because, well, I just don't know what to think about for the time, up until when it gets to 2019. Hopefully, whenever I get back into this game in particular, then I will talk about a lot of new things, specifically by the forms of Nintendo related items, and especially noticeable with Nintendo Direct news updates. And it looks like, as you can see, so, oh my lord, oh phew, that was really close. Again, I almost died by the forms of the poison swamp, but because of that, I always found that section to be quite tricky sometimes. Most notably because I always get a little bit more thrown off when it comes to like doing the jump angles and stuff like that. I think that might be the only tricky solution about these enemies to be able to be controlled with, just because, you know... Excuse me about that, sorry about that, folks. Hopefully, when it gets to the later parts and stuff like that, I will get myself better. But apart from that, though, I'm probably not gonna, you know. And, speaking of the actual microphone sometimes, is that, once again, that, every time whenever I, jinx the forms of, or actually moving my microphone, just in case for commentary's sake, for some reason, every time when I'm done with commentary stuff, for whatever reason, it just, the USB device itself, just keep on thinking of, disconnecting stuff most of the time. Like, I didn't, fiddle around with it or anything, it's just that every time when I move it a little bit slightly, but then, turns out that the USB connections goes like, badoon, sound effects. I think my microphone is actually a little bit more jinxed up every now and then. But anyways though, that's about it obviously for this video, but I'll promise you guys I'll talk more details onto that in the next video. Because of that though, we'll end things off in the inner wall. So anyways, join me next time on Let's Play Super Mario Odyssey. Here's the fact that we're about to be climbing up all the way up to the top of the tower in Bowser's Kingdom. So see you guys next time. Later fellas.